the standings. We have BenshowSly, HolySmith. Looks like we're getting underway here, so our timers, apparently one of them is working, one's not. We won't worry too much about that. We'll just, 7 seconds, no big deal. So first thing we're doing is we are setting our battle speed to 6 so that it slows down the enemies. It doesn't actually slow down everyone. So you stay the same speed, enemies slow down. We're changing our menu to wait, which means that if you're entering a menu in this game, it stops the enemy's turns from filling up while animations are happening. So in a lot of different boss fights, you're kind of looking at doing that to reduce their turns by getting more turns for yourself. Very specific strats as well. This first fight, looks like both racers got everyone to run away that we needed to. That shifts all the experience onto Terra, which is the character we wanted on. In some cases, that fight, people can't run away sometimes. It's kind of random. Most of the time they run, but if they don't, then you're losing probably a good minute and a half, 2 minutes. Second fight is the pincer tutorial. Both racers are pretty much the same spot at this point. You'll likely see the split happen around the Welk fight. And all these fights are going to do the same thing. Just kill them off. And then move on. Shift all the experience over to Terra. And yes, Benshow's timer is non-existent. That's fine. Apparently he has a 3-0 and a HolySmith has a 2-1, so I think this is one of the few matches where there's a difference in record. Most of the time, the Swiss tournament style, you're always going up against someone with a similar record as yours, but if it's not enough people left, then you kind of have to mismatch a little bit. Now, Benshow has made a big mistake. Oh no. He used the Bioblast early. Now the problem is that Vo Mammoth in the front, they have a can't run away flag. So you want to kill them off first, and then use the Bioblast, and they'll run away. Because the enemy's still active until the very end of the fight, so they can't run. So Ben's experience situation is going to kind of be bad from this point. He'll have to probably farm 1 or 2 extra encounters, which is also going to make some of the future battles suck as well, because you're not going to be the ones he wants anymore. In this game, you do know everything about what encounters you're going to get. It's all set up beforehand. You set your seed before the run. So if you make any mistakes like that and have to force extra encounters, it kind of throws everything off a little bit. And this Welk fight, normally it hides in its shell after a couple turns, but in this game there's a glitch with enemies that have counterattacks, where if you hit the enemy before its turn fills up, and then it fills its turn during the animation, and then also triggers a counterattack, it stalls the AI for a good 30 seconds or so. So because the shell in this case controls when the head goes inside the shell, and it always starts with 0 ATB every time, so it's always consistent, you can always do a relative timing thing where you throw down 2 tech missiles, stay in the menu so it pauses the ATB turn, use a fire beam on the shell, triggering its counterattack, and then it won't trigger the head go inside shell because the AI is stalled. There's a couple ways that can go wrong, like if you use a slow attack on Terra, so her ATB fills slowly. And yeah, that can definitely happen. Now, I believe Terra's level was lower because of the Vo Mammoth issue, so the tech missiles did less damage. In this game, levels are your primary factor in determining how much damage you do. Also, on HolySmith's side, he did not get the quick kill because Terra got slimed, I believe. So there are startup times to attacks in this too. So slow actually doubles the amount of time the ability takes to start up. Now he's in a very awkward position. He should still survive. I think he got 2 tech missiles off. He didn't get the 3rd one. Maybe. Let's find out. Because if he gets an attack on Terra right now, then bad news. We'll see though. Yeah, okay, he's fine. He's fine. No big deal. You know, just a little dicey. Now, despite him having a lot of issues there and being really far behind, because of the experience point situation, his are fine, but Ben's are not. So he will likely catch up. It'll probably be pretty even by the time we exit Narshe. We'll see, though. And of course, Cutsceneville here. So another thing is, in battle, you can actually hold the A button to clear off text boxes at the end of battles and clear off text during cutscenes. So you can just hold the button down, no mashing required. So it's very handy to know that. And of course, like most RPGs, you're going to be reducing the amount of characters in the character's name. So T, because it draws characters 2 at a time, 2 per frame. So if you remove 4 letters, every 4 characters is 2 frames. So you're saving 2 frames for every time her name is mentioned. And the amount of time it takes to actually remove the characters is worth it. So, because her name gets mentioned a few times, as you can imagine. Every time she talks, every time someone says her name. And the goal here is to get Terra to level 6. The main reason why you want that is because the characters that join later increase their level based on your level. So being level 6 will make Locke 1 level higher, then because he's 1 level higher as well, then Edgar will join 1 level higher, and then it kind of snowballs like that. Makes grinding later a lot easier, gives you more life, gives you more damage, makes bosses faster. So even though you have to spend extra time doing this, it's definitely worth doing. These fights are pretty straightforward, you just cast fire. The Repo Man has a, I believe, 50-50 chance of using Wrench at the end of battle, which just wastes time, a second or so. Second and a half. Also, item drops are semi-random as well, so if you get extra item drops, they actually waste a few frames. HolySmith accidentally single casting fire. That can happen. Alright, so on Ben's side, we'll see he'll have to force an extra encounter or 2. Let's see how this goes. Holy's still only at the beginning of the cave, though, so he still has like 3 fights left. You can see Ben on that fight, he was supposed to level up, but now he has to force another encounter here. It's going to take a while because this area has a low threat generation. Luckily, he gets a preemptive, so it's a little bit faster. We'll see if he gets the level up off of this. He did not. Yeah, the Vomammoth fight really sucks because there's 4 enemies and they give quite a bit of experience. So he has to force 2 extra, I think. This should probably do it. Okay, so yeah, we're looking at both characters, both people, achieving the same thing at the same time, but obviously that's going to be a bigger problem for Ben because the encounters that he's going to be getting later will be completely different. HolySmith is on the step route, but Ben is not. So on the way to Figaro Castle, we'll be getting 2 Leafer encounters with a single Leafer. Ben, I have no idea what he's going to get. We'll find out when the time comes. And running away in this game works kind of weird, a little bit different from other games. It's tied to each individual character, so 1 character runs away each at a time. And depending on the character, they have a hidden stat that determines how fast they can run away. So generally it's like a stat of 4, and what this stat does is it tracks whenever you're running. It'll check if you're running, and then it'll add a value to a run gauge, essentially. And it will choose between 1 and upwards of your running stat. So it could be 1 to 4. And for every enemy on the field, they add +2. So you can either get a quick runaway where it adds 2, just run away right away. But if we add more enemies to that, you have to wait a little bit longer because it has to check periodically and add to that value. So if you have a single enemy, you are pretty much in a spot where you're almost always running away immediately unless you get the worst possible luck. So step routing lets you get those encounters more often, which helps quite a bit. They also can't pincer attack you. There's certain formations in this game that just simply cannot pincer you. And if you favor getting those over ones that can, you're going to have more consistency. So on the Mount Cold Slater, there's 2 Tuskers that can fight you, and they can pincer you, but Brawlers cannot. So you'll find that we get all Brawlers, so we never get pincer attacked. And we're still going through cutscenes, you know, typical jazz. Top middle or bottom middle? We've already passed the cutscene. I didn't see what Terra hit. And looks like Ben accidentally hit the tutorial, so that happened. So these guys, you can walk past them during their walk forward animation. If you walk past them whenever they're in a different part of their animation, they actually tag you, so you actually want to be careful. But as long as you're doing that step forward, you can walk right by them. No problem. HolySmith, however, did get into one of those by accident. So his step route will be a little bit different as well, because adding an extra encounter like that will change the enemy formations you end up getting later, because it's kind of advancing a table of encounters that you choose from. On Ben's side, he had the bottom Moogle be stopped, and that Moogle does the most damage, so that slows him down a bit. However, Mog did get a critical, so that's nice. And yeah, if you do get into an encounter here, you can actually dance with Mog. It's random what you get. It's like a 5 out of 8 chance to get Snare. And you could instant kill Marshall with that, if you really wanted to. And it looks like both are finishing about the same time. So we're actually pretty even, because on Ben's side, he's off his step route. HolySmith is also off. But he's off by 1 battle, where Ben is off by a bunch, and he doesn't know where his encounters are going to actually be at this point. Yeah, you could get Elfire. Elfire also helps. And yeah, the fight is faster, but getting the extra encounter is not faster, so... Because you kill the front 2 Lobo dudes, and then you use Dance, and the boss dies, and you're done. So the boss is quite a bit faster, but running into an extra guy, not so good. Because typically you would get out of Narshe around 1330-ish, 1340-ish. But we had issues on Welk and running away. So we're looking at closer to 1445. Alright, let's see what encounters that Ben's going to get here. So, Okay. So you can see on the HolySmith's side, he ran away a little bit faster. That's because he's fighting one enemy, not three. Then HolySmith does get the 3 enemy pack because he got the extra fight during the mobile section. Ben taking one extra step to the left, but he only got one encounter on the way to the castle, so he is doing okay. Yeah, you generally do want to dance. It's up to you, though. I mean, you can risk it. It is a little bit of a risk, but it's usually fine. Even Caven's not too bad. I mean, it does partial damage. I think Elfire and Snare are the best. So you have a decent chance. I think Caven kind of sucks. And then Poison Frog, I forget what that does. That's a 1 in 16 chance, though. It will be interesting to see how this turns out, though, because the step routing is completely out of whack at this point. But for now, cutscene, walking. There are little things you can do here, so if you walk perfectly and mash like reasonably well, like you can. What will end up happening is you'll run into the Chancellor, and you'll also get a traffic jam of NPCs in South Figaro, which also is a problem. So if you do little tiny subtle movement changes, it will help to prevent that. You can basically pause for like half a second to manipulate the Chancellor, and then at the end of this section, there will be an earthquake happening, and you can delay closing a text box to advance the NPC movement counter as well, because during earthquakes, it advances at a crazy rate. And that value is what controls the NPC directions. It kind of just advances a value, moves, advances a value, moves, and then just chooses how to move based on the value. But anyway, there are cutscenes, so I'll be right back to get some water. And we're back with water. We did it. Oh yes, you can create any letters you want. So, I mean, sometimes people will name Sabin A, and then it'll be Edgar, and Sabin, and Terra in a row, which spells out the word eat. You know, for Eat Bannon. Funnily enough, for this cutscene, you don't actually have to talk to Kefka. You just walk up, which trips up a lot of people, like the very first time, because they always talk to Kefka first, assuming you have to. But no, you just walk straight up and talk to that guard, and you're in there. It is nice to see a castle on fire. It was set on fire by 2 soldiers and 1 guy. The only way we can put out the fire is by submerging the castle inside the earth. The sandy pathway. And this fight, as with many fights, we're just going to be using the auto crossbow twice. Depending on ATB luck, you can get the auto crossbow off before they take. Oh, what are you? What? So in case you like cutscenes, we're learning that Tina, aka Terra here, can actually use magic. DLC content for both, coming at you. I'm assuming they just agreed to do this. Very staged. She gives a little wink at the end. It's very good. The thing about that cutscene is it actually gets removed after you exit. So figure okay. So you don't want to use any magic until after the cave is done. But there you go. Can't believe people wouldn't take an FF6 Kefka at Narshe race extremely seriously. How can this be? And there are kind of some weird things with that cutscene too. Like you can trigger it during the Coliseum, the sketch glitch with Bannon. Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing. But we won't talk about that. That's a whole other thing. It's a whole other story. And this is our first introduction to the Chocobo. Chocobos in this game always face south whenever you load them. HolySmith got off the Chocobo on the wrong tile, so he wastes an extra step there. And he gets the encounter before the healing spring, and he gets a Hornet and 2 Crawlies. Normally you want a 5-pack to get more experience from it, but this is what we're getting. This cave in general, you want to fight triple crawlies and the 5-pack. Run away from double hornets and then just kind of fight everything else. On step route, you tend to get blearies and crawlies, like the ones we're seeing here. Blearies are kind of annoying because sometimes the crossbow's damage roll can be too low and they don't die in one shot. It's pretty rare, but it can happen. So you have to fight them as an extra character. And HolySmith does get the double hornets. You do normally want to run from this because the experience and GP totals you get from this are not very high. It's better to run from this and take an extra encounter later, because it could possibly end up that they don't get enough experience. But it all depends on what fights we end up getting. We will see. Looks like Ben is avoiding the traffic jam randomly. Perfect. And we finally get sprint shoes. So we can run fast now on the field. You back row everyone here so they take less damage. You kind of delay this menu because we want to consolidate the menu to having both the sprint shoes be done and the back row be done at the same time. And you're generally faster than the enemies in South Figaro Cave, so you just don't have to worry about it that much. And they're pretty weak enemies. And you entered the town here from the northern right side, so you spawn closer to the mountain with the chocobo. And because it does face south, you have to start by holding left and L to move towards it. Well, I'm calling them characters for some reason. I'm not sure why I call them characters, but both runners here opted to go for the magic cutscene. Gentleman's agreement. So, HolySmith's Terra got hit quite a bit. Generally, you don't want her anywhere below 60 hit points. So it would not be surprising if he decided to heal her soon. Okay, we're getting like the same encounters. I'm pretty sure Ben was behind by 2. But it seems like he's getting pretty much the same stuff. Okay, there's a bit of a deviation now, so we get the triple Serpius and Holy Side, where Ben moved forward more and gets the double Trilliums. So triple Serpius are better, quote-unquote, because they can't poison you, and they give you a little bit more experience. But they do have the small potential of pincer attacking you, where Trilliums don't. So HolySmith does probably want to heal Terra at this point. Actually, both players probably want to heal Terra at this point. Okay, we're getting more Serpiuses. Neither player has gotten a pack of 4 enemies yet. Normally, you get 3 of those. And the reason why you want them is because you get more experience. So I would say both players are actually in danger at this point of being short on experience by the end of this. But on the spiral, you do have plenty of chances of getting them. So Ben has his first. And he has gotten, I think, a couple triple Serpius fights, so I think his experience will probably be okay as long as Locke runs away, which he does. And Holy should be getting one soon. Probably the next fight. But I wouldn't be running from anything at this point, simply because we don't really know where our experience is. It does look like Holy is getting mostly the double trilliums here. And the reason why you're doing this, by the way, is because you want Sabin to join at one level higher, and it also levels up your existing characters a bit, so that they can survive easier and do more damage. It also adds to your money total, which we want to buy smoke bombs with later. So let's see. So Holy does get the 4-pack towards the end. You always want to single target the fire on the Tusker, and it's very important to not attack with lock on the Tusker, because Tuskers actually have a very dangerous counterattack called Gore, which only happens if you do a regular fight. So you want to not do that. And during the preemptives here, he's swapping around equipment as well. So HolySmith actually forced an extra encounter to get experience. Ben is on track. He has 10-9-8. So because Holy's forcing an extra encounter, he's going to be behind. He may also potentially have issues with magic points. I'm not sure. We'll see. You want at least 3 fires for Vargas. Cost 4 MP apiece, and you want at least 12 MP to do that. Ben is opting to open with auto crossbow in this fight, which is a thing you can do, but generally you want to open with fire just to make your turn order line up a bit better. Because fire, crossbow, kills a bear, where crossbow, fire, crossbow does not. So you have to add in the extra attack with lock. And then you end up being behind on your crossbow for Vargas as well. Looks like he's getting pretty good damage on Ben's side, though. And Vargas's turn order will determine whether or not we can actually skip Doomfist. So on Ben's side, you see that Vargas just attacked Edgar. And that will make it so his next turn is still filling whenever Sabin comes in. So on his side, he will most likely skip Doomfist, just as long as Sabin's ATB starts fairly high on his turn order. On Holy's side, I didn't quite catch how his fight went, but I think it went pretty standard, so he'll probably be forcing a Doomfist, which is perfectly fine. It's just depending on how the turn order works out in this fight. Will determine what we want to do. And yeah, Ben got the skip, so he's doing fine. Okay, I guess both did. So Vargas probably got an extra attack on both sides, which only really happens if he gets a super early turn before all of your characters act. But yeah, pretty close so far. After Returner's Hideout, both players will be saving and resetting a couple of times in order to manipulate the river battles. So that will reset their step counter stuff. So that will kind of realign what battles they're both getting, and they'll probably be pretty even at that point. Ben is ahead, though. However, he did get a brawler fight on the way out, where Holy made... Okay, he did. Huskers, but not a pincer, so it's okay. And Ben on the way to Returner's got a triple pack, which means it's going to be a little bit harder to run away. But it went fairly well, all things considered. Normally you get an encounter with 2 enemies, which is a little bit better. And yes, the Returner's hideout has many, many mysteries and secrets. Apparently Ben was still mashing A, which you don't want to do, by the way. Because then you'll talk to the guy on the way to ban it. You don't want to do that. On the way, you can get soft locked if the randomly wandering NPC walks between the both of you at the staircase. But it's pretty rare, and it shouldn't really happen anyways. And there are a lot of things about this base. Apparently, a lot of stuff people didn't know. People are like, "Hey, did you know that this was a thing?" And I'm like, "Yes," but apparently people didn't know. So one thing is, well, the saving pointed this out that there's a piece of paper on the desk that you can talk to and throw in the trash, which serves no real purpose at all. It's just kind of there. Second thing is, after the cutscenes, you can actually go into the room where Tara was sleeping and trigger a cutscene with a sleeping guard, which people didn't know about either. You can either get a Genji glove or a gauntlet, depending on how you say yes or no to Bannon. If you say no to him once, you can talk to the guy in the treasure room here. He'll give you the Genji glove. Then you can continue saying no to him, Bannon, that is. And then they won't give it to you in the cutscene. Or you can just say no to him 3 times, and they will give it to you in the cutscene. Or you can say yes to him, and they'll just give you the gauntlet instead. But you only have a choice of one or the other, not both. And of course, we are getting the Genji glove. Classic Genji glove, which is pretty good. It's a bugged relic. The way it was supposed to work is that it was supposed to reduce the damage that each weapon you equip does. So equipping it lets you equip 2 weapons. It's supposed to reduce what each weapon does, but as a net result, do a little bit more damage. But if you have 2 weapons equipped with it on, they just do full damage instead. But if you, in theory, or in practice even, decided for whatever reason you wanted to equip only 1 weapon, with the Genji glove also equipped, that 1 weapon would do less damage than normal. Or if you decide to have no weapons equipped, your unarmed attack would do less damage. Same thing with Gao, his attacks do less as well. And the flip side is you can use the gauntlet, which does more damage by equipping 1 weapon only. Which is not a bugged item, by the way, despite what people may have said. The gauntlet works exactly as advertised, but the Genji glove is still better. And so, yes, we're seeing saves and quits here, saving and resetting. People are put into the back row for safety. You don't really need to put save into the back, but if you are not very good at the Ultros fight, it's just a safety thing. Saving and resetting, and then resetting again at the title screen, save screen, will increment your seed value for getting encounters, as well as resetting the NPC movement value to that same seed value, which will make the NPC's movement predictable. And you can use a visual cue on when the NPC walks onto the carpet right there as to when to move south and through the doorway. And the NPC movement value in this game that determines how NPCs walk, what directions they face and walk, will determine how the river goes. And the river itself, you can either get 2 encounters or 9 encounters, or anything in between. So there's 2 mandatory encounters at the very start that we'll see here. We'll be getting the Nautiloid Exocyte and the Pterodons. Depending on what direction you choose to go, will put you on a rail of encounters. And at certain points on that rail, on the raft, it will check the NPC movement value. And depending on what the value is, it'll say either yes, I'll get a fight, or no, I won't. And you can see a little tiny bit of lag whenever it's checking. Like there's like a tiny little stutter. And if you get it at the right value, you can actually get a string of no encounters throughout the entire river, which is very handy. Funnily enough, on the first spot where you can choose left, up, or right, if you actually choose, I believe, up, there is actually a 3rd mandatory encounter before the cave, which is kind of weird. But that's why you go left. And yes, darkness does nothing in this game. The only thing it does is make it so you can't learn lores. The goggles used to be used in the sketch glitch route for the full game run, but that got phased out because you can now trigger a timer and then skip the final boss. But yeah, smooth sailing, Ultros fight. This fight is completely scripted. Ultros does the exact same attacks every time. The only bit of randomness to it is his opener attack. All it is that he just chooses a random character to fight. Then after that, he'll use a tentacle on Terra, a tentacle on Sabin, and then a multi-party tentacle, and he'll target a random character with another tentacle. Similar to the Welk fight, if you use the counter-attacking glitch that stalls the AI, you can kind of circumvent the entire fight completely. You just will not take actions. So you kind of do the same kind of relative timing thing where whenever Terra casts fire on Ultros, he will counterattack fire always. And if you time it correctly, it will stall his AI and then he'll never do anything after that. So on Ben's side, it looks like it went pretty well. On Holy's side, I believe he did get the tentacle on Terra, so that's kind of fine. So in his case, because he moved Sabin to the back row, that tentacle did not kill him. If he did not, otherwise it would have killed him, so he made the right choice. And he's choosing to use health. Bannon is in the front row, so if he gets tentacled, he's dead no matter what. So let's find out. Okay. He made it. He made it. Very dangerous, though. Because that ink could have hit anyone. And I'm not sure what the exact damage roll is on the tentacle, but I think it can still one-shot him. For the multi-party one. And on Ben's side, we will be picking up Shadow. I'm sure Holy will be doing the same thing. It is slower to get Shadow, but it is quite a bit more consistent time-wise, and more consistent for not dying. Because what ends up happening is, having an extra character in your party means you'll soak up more damage. And there's a Templar Soldier fight coming up a little bit later that having an extra character form speeds that fight up quite a bit. Sabin by himself, all he can really do is use the black belt and defend in the front row and then use counterattacks. Counterattacks are a 75% chance in this game with black belt, so there's randomness to it. And if you get poor ATB at the start, they can take some pot shots on you to do a lot more damage. So the black belt solo saving thing is faster as long as you get good luck, because it reduces the amount of cutscenes you have to sit through because you don't have to pick up Shadow. There's less dialogue. But that fight in particular goes down way faster with Shadow. The Magitech fights are a little bit faster, then you have safety throughout the train, Phantom Forest, and the base. It also has one like minor thing that people don't really know about too much, where the more characters and enemies that are on screen in a battle, the lower the average starting ATB is. So what that means is enemies will more than likely start with a lower ATB value than normal if you had 2 characters instead of 3. And because you set the battle speed to 6 to lower how fast enemies are, it actually reduces the amount of attacks that you get on average. The downside, of course, you have to run with 3 characters, so it kind of balances itself out a bit. But having an extra body to soak in damage is fine. It's helpful. And we'll be actually seeing battle speed of 1 for this fight. Battle speed 1 will speed up the enemy. The reason why is because the enemy will often go before you do, because you need to charge up Sword Tech 2. And like I was saying earlier, the less enemies that are on screen and characters that are on screen, the higher the starting ATB value will be. So oftentimes the leader will start with a very high ATB because there's only 1 character, 1 enemy. So because he takes an action, you want his next turn to come up faster. And then the retort is used because it's way stronger than anything else he has. And of course, Shadow randomly takes the lead. It's just kind of how the game sorts characters. When this game like swaps parties and people in and out of your active battle party, it gets a little messy at times. It kind of depends on, I believe, character index and memory, combined with what your last character lead and position was and stuff. I don't know. It's wacky stuff. Okay, on Ben's side, he is not paying attention, and he wasted, I don't know, 5 seconds. Anyway, more cutscenes. So we're just fighting off Kefka. Kefka is technically part of your own party members, so his ATB is not slowed by putting it to battle speed 6. So you just leave it on 1 for consolidating your menus. And you put it back to 6 for the Templar soldier fight, because you want them to take less turns. This fight, you're killing off the front 2 soldiers, and then while you're filling up your next turn, the back 2 soldiers will act. And then you use special abilities on them to kill them off in 1 hit. So Kind of just do that to make everything line up so you're not wasting time waiting around for stuff. Shadow taking quite a beating. He might want to heal. Maybe. I don't know. It's not really that important. He could die, though. Also, you do use Pummel on these guys. Pummel has a little bit faster of an animation. Some people aren't quite as comfortable with Pummel because you have to do left, right, left. So it's a little bit easier to mess up. Where Orbolt is down, down, left, or down, left, left. This game doesn't actually track diagonal inputs, it only tracks cardinal directions on the D-pad. So even though it says to roll to left, like quarter circle left on the D-pad, you just actually have to press down, down, then left. And then it treats your diagonal input as another down input, so it makes it a lot easier. Of course, everyone drank the Kool-Aid. Purple drank is it's a killer. That guy fell off the building, and those people fell over, and he decided to just jump right in. If you're gonna drink some purple drink, might as well drink it all. Our man Cyan has discovered that his family is in fact dead, as well as his king. So yes, he will move Sabin to the front row. Apparently he did not have him in the front earlier, which is why I'm assuming he did not get the one shot on the soldier earlier. Ideally, you just put Sabin in the front for the whole thing. Just like a minor safety thing to keep him in the back. For Ultros, you don't really need to, though. It's just to make sure you don't screw up if something goes really, really poorly on Ultros. Funny thing about that dog blocking, it's kind of weirdly programmed, which is pretty much this whole game. But at different points in the game, there is a higher chance of Interceptor blocking. At this point in the game, it's actually at its highest chance. I don't know what the exact amount is. I know it's something like 60% or something. I don't know. It's something like that. 50, 60, 40. It's around there. I don't know. And if Interceptor blocks, it does have a small chance of doing a counterattack and doing quite a bit of damage too. And if you have a different equipment equipped, like a shield, for example, it will randomly choose between which animation to use whenever you block an attack. So if you have a shield equipped, it will sometimes block with Interceptor, but it will use the shield block animation. And if you have the shield block animation happen, then it will actually never counterattack. So by not having a shield equipped, it will make sure that the shield animation will never happen. So earlier they did take off Shadow's gear and equipped only the Imperial dagger, assassin knife, or whatever. And that is so that Sabin can get the ninja gear equipped, which gives him +2 speed, which will help on the Kefka fight later, and also give him more defense. But it also removes Shadow's shield, making sure he doesn't have a shield equipped. However, now at this point, we actually kind of want him to not counter with Interceptor. So putting a shield on now during battle is something you can do if you really want to. Assuming you actually have a shield to put on him, which you probably don't. It's always important to go with every color of the rainbow. You know, you get your Bolt Beam, your Fire Beam, your Ice Beam. All the same. Technically, the Bolt Beam does the most damage. Each one is like 1 extra point of damage in the damage value. It's like Fire is worst, Ice is second, and Lightning highest. I'm sure they had a reason for doing it that way. I'm sure there's some really dumb reason that they couldn't make it work any other way. Okay, so Ben got a fast runaway by doing fights, which works, I guess. You can run away from preemptives faster in this game, but it varies a lot on how you actually have to do it, depending on how many enemies are on screen. If there's 3 or more enemies, it almost always will allow every character to run as fast as possible. Otherwise, if there's only 1 or 2 enemies, there's a little bit of a delay between some of the characters running away, which you can bypass by adding a bit of lag by inputting commands. So against a single enemy, you just input defend at the start, and it always works every time. Against 2 enemies, it's a little bit more complicated, but the general rule of thumb is that you wait for the preemptive text to appear, then you put in a special ability command, being either like Steal or Blitz, Health, Morph, any of those things. Not Sword Tech, though. Sword Tech's weird. And then that will also make everyone run away. In some cases, you have to like mash X to switch to the next character in order to actually use the ability.